From across northeast Wisconsin, one of the brothers convicted of killing a 24-year-old Green Bay man back in February of 2023 was scheduled to be sentenced today. Omar Hernandez previously pleaded no contest to one count of first-degree reckless homicide as party to a crime and one count of first-degree reckless injury. His attorney was not in court today, so the sentencing has been rescheduled until April 21st. However, Omar is now saying he would like to withdraw his plea. Omar and his brother Jose were charged and convicted with killing Edgar Rodriguez Hernandez and injuring Edgar's brother during the fight at the 900 block of Clayton Place in Green Bay. His brother Jose was sentenced to 3 years in prison in connection to the attempted homicide last year. His homicide charge was dropped.